I've taken compressed air and blown off all of the dust that I can. This is a tack rag dampened with mineral spirits, and it picks up any dust that's still stuck to it. Now that's a fairly wet coat. I didn't spray it near as a fine a spray as I normally would have. This is just the second coat. All I'm trying to do is get it on there. I'll sand it between every coat now, and I'll do this probably whatever it needs, 6, 7, 8 times. Now I will rotate this for a couple of minutes by hand, just like a rotisserie. Towards the end, I'll fine spray it. In other words, I'll add less liquid and more air in my mixture on my gun, and it'll be more finely atomized. The last 2-3 coats, I'll put a lot finer spray on it. But for right now, like I said, I'm just trying to get it on there and keep it from running, and that's why I rotate it. I have put several coats on this thing now. When it was original, when I got it rather, the grain was not, the finish they had used, it had not filled the grain. It wasn't slick like a browning. Fairly shiny, but not as shiny as plastic glass like a browning or a Socko. But I'm going to try to restore it to that same degree of shine. And I think this is the last coat. I think. That's the thing about gun finishes. You never really know till you look at it after it dries. And I'm gonna tell you a little trick that I picked up that I can't explain why this happens. I just know that it does happen. And this is 600 paper, and it's worn out 600, so it's pretty fine. And I do sand with the grain where I can. Around this back of this cheek piece is not able to do that. But the cheek piece disguises the sand marks that are going around it against the grain. Honestly, you're not sanding the grain anyway. You're sanding the finish. If you're sanding the grain, the wood, the finish would be, you'd be through the finish and into the wood, and that's just not what I'm doing. The thing is, the sand marks with the grain disguises them so you can't see the sand marks, if that makes sense. If you sanded everything against the grain, you'll see the sand marks. Having said that, the trick that I realized is no matter how fine you sand this within reason, your first coat you put on after that, you see those marks. If you hold it up to the light just right and you get some gloss off of the light and you hit that gloss in exactly the right place and exactly the right way, you can see those sand marks. And what I have found that works the best is on your last coat, and this is with a spray gun. This is not rubbing it by hand or with a brush, but with a spray. Put a super light coat on, and then with this finish in particular, they say that you can, if you don't wait more than 4 hours, you can put another coat on without sanding it. They will still bond, chemically bond to one another. And so what I do is put a super light coat on, and then in less than 4 hours I come up and do it again. And that covers up those little bitty, tiny sand marks that you can see through on the first coat after sanding. And I have found that that works to put on. If you spray it light enough, it doesn't give quite as glossy a finish. And I'm talking about so light that you almost don't even think it's on there, but it's on there. You don't spray it till it's wet. If you do that, you're going to have a super glossy finish. But if you just kind of mist it on there, if you got to get the mist even, that's the thing. You can't have it heavier on over here than it is over here. It'll be a different gloss. It's a tricky thing. It really is a tricky thing. I wish I could visit some of the factories that finish guns and see some of their tricks, and especially Browning, because Browning finishes are a mystery to me. Strippers won't even touch Browning finish. When I refinish a Browning, I really should probably charge more for doing the Browning, because you can't strip them off. You've got to sand every single bit of that finish off. You can pour stripper on it all day long. It just runs off like water off a duck's back. So here we go. Last coat, hopefully. It's so not wet, I could stand it up vertically right now and it wouldn't run. Nothing would run because it's just barely misted on there. And I'll give it about 3.5, 4 hours and come back and do it again. I buffed this down. I sanded it with 6000 paper. A sprayed finish, I guess I just don't have the quality control on my ventilation system in the shop. There's dust everywhere. But a sprayed finish will have a teeny bit of just a roughness. There's just little tiny bits of stuff flying around in the air, no matter how still it is in here. So I sanded it down with 6000, just slicked that off, and this is rotten stone on a dry rag, and I just buffed that off just to slick it up, make sure there's no little bitty imperfections anywhere. And the reason I did it now before I started cleaning out my checkering is because that rotten stone is gray, and it leaves a gray dust all in everything. So what I need to do is take an air hose, compressed air, and blow all this out of all the little tiny pores and everything, and then take a tack rag and wipe it off, and then I'll wax this. When I get done with the checkering and everything, I'll wax it. This checking is a bit rounded over just from wear, and it's also full of finish where I sprayed this stock multiple coats. So I'm doing two things here. I'm just cleaning it out, and I'm also deepening and repointing the checking. Pointing is just that, bringing those points back up sharp. I'm not changing this pattern, outline, nothing. I'm not changing it at all. I'm just cleaning it up. I'll have a before and after picture of this. You can tell the difference. If you were here, you could feel the difference, because well-made points on the diamonds give a grip, just like the handle on a snap-on ratchet tool will grip your hand. Good checking, and that's what checking was started out for was to grip your hand. Now this is a borderless checking pattern, which is my favorite. Borders, to me, I guess they give you a little cushion where you can make a mistake and cover it up with a border. But borderless is just, there's no room for error. It's clean. It actually takes more craftsmanship to do borderless than it does to add a border. I'm kind of a fan of Browning. John Browning was a genius. But I just don't care for the great big triple borders that they had on so many of their guns for so many years. I don't know if they ever got away from that. I don't know what Brownings are doing now. I'm not rich enough to buy Brownings, even though I have a few. All right, at this point, I can't start down here and go against the grain. The grain is coming this way, and if I'm going against it, I'm digging in. So I have to start up here and go that way, and then turn the thing around, turn the stock around, and finish it out and cut these going this direction. All I'm trying to do is get from the middle to this edge and cut these into that edge. I've got this little strip. It's epoxy. When I glued this together, some epoxy ran down here, so I've got to chip that out of there. I don't think it stuck too well because these threads were, they just had oil and grease and stuff in them. So all I got to do is just flake it out. See, I flipped this thing around, and now I can go from the high point down forward. A while ago I was coming this way, now I'm going that way. Whoever checkered this gun at the factory really had their ducks in a row to do what they did. The way this thing rolls over right here, they had to bend that checkering down around that roll to keep these lines straight. They did a masterful job. Whoever it was, my hat's off to them. I'm just copying. I'm just following what they did. So this is not my checkering. I'm just a cleanup man. But if I stay in their lines, stay in their grooves, it turns out the same as when it was brand new. But they did a great job. And this little crisscross right here, I think is absolutely beautiful. I love that little strip of finished wood coming down to a point right there. Your old Tang safety Rugers and stuff, your safety was right there, and that always looked really good to put a safety right there on the Tang. This matched, that went well with the Tang safety. It's about time for me to switch tools and go to a push. This is a pull. It's very small. It allows you up here in these little bitty lines, you don't have very far to go from front to back. Because it's so small, it'll work in these tight areas, but I'm to the point where I need to push. The grain is going to make me start pushing here. This little offset right here, the little two lines over, that comes down and makes a little, they call that a lightning pattern. When you have, usually they have three little jogs right there. You got one there, and then it's straight, and one there. And then I did a 22 oh, here last year, I guess, I picked up a 5 model 5 something Remington 22. It was plain. It didn't come from the factory with any checkering. I'll get it. I'll show it to you. And I put a lightning panel on it. This is a model 511 bolt action Remington. You can see the lightning pattern on it. It came plain. It didn't have anything on it when I got it, and I added that.